Hello, welcome back to Math Time with Professor Prime, and I'm your host as always, Professor Prime. And today we're going to talk about math and racing games. Okay, so when it comes to racing games, they have been around like for a minute, and they've been a big part of gaming in one form or another. And so I want to talk about them, but I also want to talk about games where racing might not be the main event, but it's absolutely a huge part of that game. You know what I mean? Like it's not the main character, but it's part of the regular cast, that sort of thing, and how racing just shows up in gaming in general. And I also want to talk about the idea of chasing segments and how they tie to that. So yeah, we'll get into it. Here we go. So when it comes to racing games, right, they can come up in any like number of ways. We'll start with like what they do in a very general sense and then branch out from there. So when it comes to racing, right, like maybe it's a one-on-one race. Maybe it's you versus several opponents. And maybe it's just you trying to beat your own time. So, you're taking on yourself in that sense. But no matter what you're doing, one of the big things at its core is you're dealing with speed, right? You're dealing with distance, you're dealing with time. It's all physics, it's all math. And so it's like, but how does that get to you, right? Because it's just like, if the idea is like, hey, I want to beat this person, or I want to beat these people, or I want to beat my own time, it's like, well, so what am I doing to achieve that? Because it's going to vary game to game, situation to situation, right? And there's also different types of racing games that you encounter, right? Because you might have some that like go through painstaking efforts to have it be like a racing sim, right? But you may also have things where they're a little bit more loose with things like arcade style sort of racing games, and then like branching out even more, you have different like kart style games, right? Because like there's a difference between how racing comes across to you in a game like Forza Horizon, or that whole series, versus Need for Speed versus Mario Kart, and so on and so forth, right? They all get at the same thing, but there's so many different elements that impact how those races unfold. And then again, it's also like situation to situation in each of those cases, right? And so what's interesting to me is back to that initial idea, right? You have what the race is and what's behind it, and it's inherently something that's mathematical, right? The idea that hey, I'm trying to cover this distance in this amount of time, right? I'm trying to go this fast. I'm trying to like conserve this or that, right? Like maybe you're conserving your fuel and trying to use that properly, or maybe you have only a set number of turbocharges, whatever the situation is. Like because again, it's going to vary game to game, but the idea is that they share a lot of the same DNA on that base level, and then it kind of expands from there. And then a game like Mario Kart, you have different items that you're going to be able to use, and it can get brutal. Um, but that's the whole thing, like on that larger level, right? Where racing, in racing games, right? Racing is the main star, and you have that general idea, and you expand because, like, right, you get different mechanics, game to game, series to series, different arenas that are gonna test you, that have different physics involved that you're gonna have to figure out, right? And yeah, and like different items that might come into play for some of those games, or just like different situations where you might have to really test your abilities. And it's not just about going fast. It's about going fast for sure, but it's like, hey, there's other stuff too. But no matter how you cut it, right, it's all math. And there are so many games that, like, even if racing isn't the star, is like it's a big part of it, right? There's several games where they have like racing segments, and that's not uncommon. Gaming has had a huge history, and that's a big part of things. And I'd argue that like the idea of a chase is tied to that idea too. And part of that is that idea of like, hey, I'm dealing with things like speed, distance, and time, right? Because you're dealing with speed, you're dealing with those other two things, but the idea is just hey, I'm dealing with these things, I'm dealing with this physics, I'm dealing with this math, but like the goal, like the end result is different, sort of, right? Because the idea is like, hey, well, I'm gonna beat this person or beat this thing by getting quickly to this point, right? I'm going from point A to point B, and I'm trying to get there as quickly as possible and navigate this environment and that environment. And with Chase, it's the same sort of thing, but it varies in the sense like, hey, I'm either trying to pursue this thing and beat them to the finish line or catch up with them, or I'm trying to avoid this thing. So you have that added layer, but whether you're dealing with a race or a chase, you're kind of dealing with the same thing. Just it comes to excuse me, it comes to you differently. Yes, sorry. It was like I was belching and it wasn't sure. Uh, my body it didn't seem like it was sure what it wanted it to be. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go on. Sorry about that. But yeah, so yeah, 'cause it was like I don't know. It almost wanted to be a hiccup, I think, but I digress. So yeah, it's like so whether we're dealing with a race or a chase, you're trying to get from point A to point B, and it's hitting you differently, right? Like you're trying to solve a puzzle, but it's a different kind of puzzle, right? Because like with a race, it's like, hey, how can I beat this opponent? How can I like get to this point before they do, right? Or like how can I make sure that they get more behind me? Where the other one is like, hey, I'm tracking down this person or thing, or trying to avoid this person or thing. It's you're still getting to some sort of finish line of sorts, right? But it's different. But no matter how you cut it, it's all math, and I dig it. And racing is just like it's a big part of gaming.